before you on this special day. First off, want to give greetings to fellow elected members, my Board of Ed colleagues. Want to give greetings also to my church family. I see that they are here, other special friends, and so special to have my mom here and my sister. And so this is a family affair, and of course, quite an honor to be here with my daughter Julianna. My youngest daughter Gabrielle is over there with giving support, and my husband who's been by my side all the way. So glad to be here as we recognize Juneteenth. But more importantly, we're recognizing Juneteenth that now is recognized as a federal holiday. Absolutely. That is something that has a long time been coming. We're glad it's here. And we have further to go. That comment was shared before. And we must press on as we move forward. But Juneteenth, how did we get to this point in time? Well, let's take a little trip back and remind ourselves of why Juneteenth is so important. But before we do that, we must recognize the presence of African Americans in this country. And we must recognize that African American history did not begin with slavery. Our history did not begin with slavery. Our history began when we hailed from a continent where we lived on bountiful land as kings and queens, scientists, teachers, doctors, astronomers. We led, we supported, we cared. We were a community. When Africans first came to this country, we did not arrive as slaves. We arrived as indentured servants. We lived alongside people of all other backgrounds, where we collectively worked together, wanting more, a better quality of life. As the colonies developed and as things began to progress, that's where race began. That's where race was used to cause a division. Now, race is a social construct. Social construct, what does that mean? It is a classification system invented by humans to define physical differences between people. This classification system, coupled with the desire for labor, led to the institution of slavery. Quote, the slave trade provided political power, social standing, and wealth for the church, European nation states, New World colonies, and individuals. It was a construct, race, that was used to fuel the unjust, inhumane, institutional system of slavery, where it was legal to enslave human beings on the basis of race for economic gain. There was once a British poet who wrote, I pitied them greatly, but I must be mum, for how could we do without sugar or rum? Wow. It was more important to preserve the convenience of sugar to season your tea and your coffee than it was to recognize the inhumane brutality of enslaving human beings. So therefore, he stood mum. How many of us know of others who stood mum, who observed things that were going on, knew it was wrong, but instead of stepping out and speaking up, they stayed mum? It's situations like this we must remember how we collectively need everyone to work towards moving forward. We do not need pity. We do not need sympathy. We need collective action. So slavery began. And for over 400 years, African Americans were enslaved in America. Now, this includes all of America, including the North, including here in Connecticut, including here in West Hartford. Now, prior to the beginning of this celebration, we started off with the Witness Stone ceremony just down the street, where we recognized and brought to life the names of individuals who were enslaved in this town. This is a collective effort where inspirational, encouraging people recognize that yes, we had enslaved individuals in this town, and we must call their names out. We must give voice to the voiceless. And as was shared before, there is no shame in acknowledging the wounds from our past, but there is shame in trying to ignore it and sweep it under the rug. We must speak up, and we must speak out. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Liberty, freedom, Emancipation Proclamation. Yes, we talk about January the 1st, 1865, when the Emancipation Proclamation was issued by President Abraham Lincoln, which declared that enslaved people in the Confederacy are free. But wait a minute, why are we here today? Because over 2.5 years later, June 19, 1865, when Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced that the president had issued a proclamation freeing those who were enslaved. That's because they did not know. They did not know that they were free. That is why we are here celebrating Juneteenth, because this truly marks the day when we became free. This does not take away at all from the 4th of July. We recognize and appreciate the 4th of July. But as we keep it real, and as we tell our truth, we know the 4th of July, all of us were not free. And so freedom, what does that mean? What does it mean to be free? Well, freedom is defined as the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants to. Act, speak, or think as one wants to. If African Americans have been free since 1863 or 1865, why did we have to deal with things like Jim Crow laws? We were free during that period of time. What about a mob of angry white people entering a prosperous town populated by thriving African Americans and murdering hundreds of them, burning their homes and their place of buildings down? I'm talking about the Tulsa Race Massacre, which many are just now learning about. This took place during a time when we were free. What about being told that we're not patriotic enough, but not recognizing that African Americans have participated in every war fought by Americans on American soil or abroad? I'm going to say that again. African Americans have fought in every war fought on American soil or abroad. We fought for a country that collectively was not fighting for us, and we questioned patriotism. The Civil Rights Movement, that is where changes were happening. We were speaking up and speaking out. But it's important to recognize that was a movement, not a moment. That was a movement to charge all of us to move forward. Let our rejoicing rise, high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea.
Look how far we've come. We are here in this moment because of the dreamers and believers who fought for our rights with prices we can't ever repay. I live in this town, West Hartford, Connecticut, where I live next door to white people. In the past, this would not have been possible. I attend school with white classmates, and classmates from all ethnic backgrounds. This would not have been possible in the past. Because of sacrifices from the past, I'm able to thrive in the present. But Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. Many of these names I just said you've probably never heard of, but we still need to say their names all the same. Sing a song of faith,
full of the faith that the dark past has taught us.
But the legacy and actions of pioneers also remind me of how we can progress forward. Ralph and Juanita Abernathy, friends and colleagues of the King family, forged the pathway on which we now travel upon. Barack Obama, the first ever African-American president of the United States of America. Simone Biles, world-renowned gymnast, is making waves in her own right. One such event is being the first ever woman in gymnastics history to land the double pike. Oops. Thank you. Katherine Johnson is an exceptional mathematician who worked at NASA during the time of John Glenn's historic orbit around the Earth. She was brought to fame for being portrayed in the 2016 movie Hidden Figures. Kamala Harris, the first ever woman and Black Vice President of the United States of America. And there's also Amanda Gorman, making history as the first ever National Youth Poet Laureate. Her poem, The Hill We Climb, was read at Joe Biden's inauguration. One quote from said poem is, "For there is always light if we're brave enough to see it, if we're only brave enough to be it." Sing a song full of hope that the present has taught us. As Amanda alludes to, if we acknowledge and act on the positive or light in dim places, anything is possible. With the exception of light itself, there are also many things that, when seen, represent promise and hope. One such thing is a diamond. Diamonds are created in extraordinary circumstances. They are formed under conditions of extreme heat and pressure. Connecting this phenomenon to the Black experience, many of our ancestors have progressed from their dire circumstances by focusing on the belief that life can always get better. By continuing that initiative into the future, we can be sure to make a positive impact on the world. Everyone, even children, have the power to enforce positive change in their communities. With this belief, I started and ran my club, Students Against Racism at Cedric this past year. We hope to address and acknowledge racism in school and in the community. But leaders are also making changes in their own right nationally. This past week, President Biden signed a bill making Juneteenth a federal holiday. This provides with it a hope for improvement on Juneteenth's recognition in American culture.
Pressing on. Yes, we took a journey in the past to describe how it brought us here, but not to have us to feel somber and down. Not to have us to feel somber and down, but to remind us of where we came from and to motivate us on why we need to continue to press forward, moving on. Now, in order to press forward, you have to perceive it. You have to think it. In order to press forward, after you think about it, you must believe in what you are striving for. And then once you believe it, then you can work to achieve it. You have to perceive, then believe, and then work to achieve. That's because the mind is powerful. The mind is a powerful organ. Thoughts are powerful. Now remember the definition of freedom, the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants to. Now if we are free in a physical sense, but we are not free in the mind. What do I mean when I say not free in the mind? I mean when you are filled with negativity. Oh, I can't do that. I'm not worthy. Oh, I shouldn't try that. I'm not good enough. Oh, they don't like me, so I'm not even going to even try to try that opportunity. That's where you are not free in the mind, and that's where you are still held in bondage. Free and having the power to act, speak, and think on one's own. So with this, we all must press on. We must see that together, as a collective body made up of unique and glorious parts representing the United States of America, then we as a people have truly won. There are many other You know what? We're going to pause for a minute, but in our church family, we say when things like this happen, that's the negative spirit that's trying to hold up something good that's happening. We're not going to let that happen here today. We are here for a good reason. Hello, there we go. All right. We're not going to be silent.
There are many other things to look forward to, but it is very important to remember that there will be hurdles along the way. But just like our forefathers before us, we must press on and hope for better tomorrow.
Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Thank you all.